For texturing a model, we need to be in the Model tab. We need to make sure our unit is selected. Next, to the right of Panels, we need to be under the sphere, which is labeled Shading. We click on the sphere, and that brings up a few other buttons to the right. Of those other buttons, we want to make sure we are on the red sphere now, which is labeled Material buttons. Then we click Add New. Now we go to the brick wall looking button, which is called Texture buttons. Now we will click Add New. After we have done that, we will click the next gray button and hit Add New. We repeat this until we have done it 4 times total. 1 for each .dds file. Now, under Texture Type, we select Image, which brings up these panels here. Under Image to the very right, we click Load. Now we go to our model's texture directory. We import the 4 different texture files. Once you have imported all of your textures, you can see them by going to Shaded View and then adding a light source. Now the top and very left of this panel is a grid looking button. Clicking on that gives us the different types of windows. We want to be in UV Image Editor. To the right of that button are these 2 arrows. That is where our textures are, and we can swap between them. Usually you want all of the textures to be the same size. The different files, they are all the same size. Going back to 3D view, selecting our model and going into Edit mode, when we enter UV Image Editor window again, now we have our model in here. This is how we create our texture mappings. If we open an image here, when we enter 3D view again, our model will now have the texture and its mapping. The texture that will appear on our model will be dependent on whatever was last left the UV Image Editor texture in while in edit mode. If you are working with a model that you have started from scratch, you will first need to UV unwrap your model. The way you do this is by selecting your model in edit mode, going to Mesh, and then UV unwrap. However, I will show how to merge 2 different models and properly texture them. What we first need to do is merge the textures of both models. To be efficient, we would only copy over whatever we're going to use. However, for the sake of this tutorial, I'm just going to copy the whole texture file over. To do this, we make our canvas twice as big, stretching outwards from the top left corner. Now we take our other texture files and move them over. Now that we have merged our textures, in Blender, just hit the reload button on each of your textures and they will be updated. Our model no longer is textured properly. We have to be in edit mode and go back to the UV Image Editor window. Now if we look at our model again, you will see it looks normal. This is where we select the second part of our model And we do the same thing. We set its textures. I'll put a few links in the description apart from my normal ones. A few that lead to UV unwrapping tutorials. As always, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll answer them as soon as I can.